The crystal plates on the long dining table rattled as Elias Grant's voice cut through the mansion like a whip. "If you can't even serve her, then you don't belong in my house." Every guest froze. Cameras from dinner guests' phones trembled in their hands. Ariel Grant, his wife, stood still at the head of the table, her palms trembling, but her eyes calm. Across from her, Selena Cross, the woman everyone whispered about, the mistress, smirked, swirling red wine in her glass. Elias's rage boiled over. He grabbed Ariel's wrist and shoved her back toward the door. "You'll serve who I tell you to serve, or you'll get out." The crowd gasped as he struck her across the face. The sound echoed off the marble walls. Then, humiliation beyond cruelty, he locked the doors behind her and barked to security. "Keep her outside until she learns her place." The servants hesitated, but his glare silenced them. Outside, under the mansion's bright chandeliers, Ariel stood barefoot on the stone porch, bruised cheek glowing under the golden light. The heavy door shut in her face. Inside, laughter and clinking glasses continued, as if nothing had happened. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She only whispered to herself, "He beat me because I refused to serve his mistress." Then in the still air, her expression changed, pain turning to steel. Somewhere in that silence, a secret was waiting to rise, a secret that would one day crush him, because the woman he just threw out wasn't what she seemed. She was the hidden billionaire CEO of the empire he thought he owned. But how could a man so powerful be destroyed by the wife he thought was powerless? What could she possibly do next that would bring him to his knees? This is a story of betrayal, humiliation, and quiet resilience that blooms into power. This is the story of how a husband beat up his wife just because she refused to serve his mistress, unaware she was the secret billionaire CEO, and what she did next crushed him. Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we begin, please click subscribe. Every single click helps us tell stories of courage and truth. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from. Because when we share these stories together, we remind each other that even in pain, we can rise. The mansion's dining hall glittered under crystal chandeliers, every surface reflecting wealth and ego. Elias Grant sat at the head of the long table, wine glass raised, his laughter booming. Guests, executives, neighbors, family pretended to join in, afraid to be the first to stop. Beside him sat Selena Cross, his rumored business partner, wearing a crimson gown that matched her lipstick and arrogance. At the far end stood Ariel Grant, his wife, calm, quiet, graceful. She had cooked the meal herself even though there were 3 chefs employed. Her smile was faint, polite, a habit more than a choice. Selena tilted her glass lazily and said, loud enough for everyone, "You forgot to serve me, Mrs. Grant." The room stilled. Forks froze midair. Elias's eyes narrowed. "You heard her," he said, voice low but deadly. "Serve her." Ariel's fingers tightened around the serving tray. "Selena is your guest, Elias," she answered softly. "You can pour her drink yourself." Gasps circled the table. Selena's painted smile widened like a wound. "How adorable," she cooed. The wife giving orders in her husband's house. Elias slammed his palm on the table so hard the crystal rattled. "My house, my rules." He stood towering over Ariel, eyes glowing with fury and drink. The air grew so still that even the candles flickered. "You think you're too proud to serve her?" he hissed. "Then you can eat outside with the dogs." He shoved the tray from her hands. Plates shattered, sauce spilled across her dress. Laughter broke the silence. Nervous, eager laughter from people desperate to stay on his side. Marshall Grant, his father, chuckled under his breath. Cole Maddox whispered, "She had it coming." Ariel didn't move. Only her jaw tightened. Elias' rage needed proof of power. He grabbed her arm and struck her, once sharp across the cheek. The sound cracked like thunder. Selena gasped theatrically, hand to her chest as if shocked, though her eyes gleamed with triumph. The servants froze at the doorway. Elias barked, "Get her out of my sight and lock the doors." 2 guards hesitated. She looked at them and whispered, "It's fine." They lowered their eyes as they led her toward the mansion's heavy oak doors. The guests watched, some pretending to sip wine, others whispering, phones already raised behind napkins. The scandal would be online before dessert. At the door, Elias shouted after her, "You'll learn your place when you spend a night outside. Maybe then you'll remember who feeds you." The lock clicked, a sound that echoed down the marble hall. Outside, the night was cruelly bright. The mansion's windows glowed gold. Inside, laughter returned like nothing had happened. Ariel stood barefoot on the cold stone porch, her cheeks swelling, her heart steady. Through the tall windows, she saw Selena slide into her chair, swirling wine where she once sat. The red liquid shimmered like blood under the light. For a long moment, Ariel didn't move. Then she whispered, barely audible, "He beat me because I refused to serve his mistress." Her voice was calm, factual, no tears, no tremor. The security lights hummed above her, turning her shadow long against the walls. She turned toward the driveway. Her reflection glimmered faintly in the glass, one eye bruised, the other burning. The calmness in her gaze felt unnatural, dangerous. From inside came laughter again, but fainter now, like ghosts already fading. A single car passed the gate, headlights brushing across her face. For the first time that night, her lips curved, not in pain, but in promise. "Be careful what you call obedience," she murmured. The door behind her stayed locked, but somewhere deep inside that mansion, another lock had just opened, the one she'd placed years ago on her father's secrets. She turned her gaze toward the east wing, the study Elias never entered, the one that held her father's sealed briefcase. The light from that window flickered once and died. The humiliation was done. The silence had begun to plan. The bathroom light flickered as Ariel Grant stepped inside, her reflection fractured in the tall mirror. Behind her, the distant sound of laughter still drifted from the mansion's dining room, muted, careless, like a celebration built on cruelty. She closed the door gently. The click echoed like judgment. Her reflection looked back at her, swollen cheek, smeared lipstick, a wine stain spreading like blood across her ivory dress. She stared at the woman she had become, silent, obedient, erased. Her fingers brushed the cracked edge of the sink. Her breath came slow, trembling. Then with the same quiet precision that once made her the calm center of every storm, she reached for a towel and began to wipe her face. Halfway through, she stopped. The bruise beneath her eye pulsed, a bruise born not just from his hand, but from years of dismissal. Flashback. A younger Ariel stood behind Elias at their first investor dinner, pouring coffee while he charmed guests with her ideas. "She's just helping," he'd said then, laughing when she corrected his numbers. "My wife's not built for boardrooms." The memory cut deeper than the bruise. She leaned closer to the mirror, whispering to the woman staring back, "He beat me because I refused to serve his mistress." The words didn't tremble. They landed heavy, sharp, real. Tears threatened, but never fell. Instead, her gaze hardened, searching the mirror for the person she used to be. Dr. Samuel Rhodes's daughter, the girl who once dismantled a computer at age 10 just to rebuild it better. Her father's voice returned in the silence. "When they think you're powerless, you're most dangerous." Ariel inhaled. The rhythm of her breathing steadied. Her heartbeat slowed. The storm inside her began to organize itself into resolve. On the counter lay her wedding ring, small, expensive, meaningless now. She slid it off and placed it beside a framed photo of her father, one she had kept hidden behind the vanity mirror. Dust caught the light on the glass. "I'm done being small," she whispered. The air in the room shifted. The once soft golden light now felt cold, metallic. She straightened her back. Then her eyes fell on the drawer beneath the counter, half open. Inside lay a key, a small brass key marked with an engraved R. A memory sparked. Her father, months before his death, handing her that same key. "When you're ready to remember who you are, use this," he'd said. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. She looked again into the mirror. Same face, new fire. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere distant. Not rain, just sky rumbling, as if aware of what was about to unfold. Ariel turned toward the door, hair falling loose across her shoulders. "You locked me out tonight, Elias," she murmured, "but you also unlocked something you'll never survive." She stepped into the corridor, the key glinting in her palm. The light above her flickered once more, then steadied, bright. She walked toward the east wing, the study Elias never entered, where her father's sealed briefcase waited, and the truth of who truly owned everything was about to awaken. The hallway was silent except for the faint echo of Ariel's heels against marble. In her hand, the brass key gleamed, a relic of the past, cool against her skin. She turned toward the east wing, her father's study, the one Elias never bothered to open. The air smelled faintly of dust and cedar. When she pushed the door, it creaked like a memory exhaling after years of silence. Stacks of untouched books lined the walls. A covered desk sat in the center beneath a frozen chandelier. Ariel set the key on the table and closed her eyes. The silence pressed against her chest, pulling her backward through time. Ariel's first memory of Elias, a younger man with sharp ambition and no name. He'd sat in her father's cafe, sketching business plans on napkins. "I just need someone to believe in me," he'd said. And she did. She sold her car to fund his first prototype. She coded his website herself, using her father's old laptop. When his first check arrived, he kissed her forehead and said, "I'll never forget what you've done for me." He did. 2 years later, hospital lights. Ariel lay pale on a bed, her hands over her stomach, miscarriage, exhaustion. Elias stood by the door, phone in hand. He didn't look at her. "You should rest," he muttered, texting someone. The phone lit up with a message she wasn't meant to see. "Can't wait to see you tonight, Selena." Her chest had gone cold. That was the first time she realized she had lost more than a child. She had lost her husband. Then came her father's death. Dr. Samuel Rhodes, scientist, founder, visionary. At the funeral, Elias shook hands with investors, whispering condolences like business deals. When the lawyer offered her father's sealed envelope, Elias snatched it first, saying, "I'll handle her finances." Later that night, he returned with a smirk. "Your father left nothing but files and failed patents." She never asked to see them, until tonight. Ariel opened her eyes. The desk before her seemed to hum faintly with the weight of truth. She slid the key into the small compartment beneath the drawer. Click. The latch opened, revealing a weathered briefcase marked Rhodes Legacy Holdings. Her pulse quickened. Inside a folder, its paper yellowed and edges crisp. Stamped in bold, "Ownership Trust, Confidential Beneficiary." She didn't open it yet. Her father's voice echoed again. "Don't rush power. Let it come to you when you've earned calm." Her hands trembled, then steadied. She placed the briefcase on the table, brushed dust from its surface, and whispered, "You always knew I'd need this, didn't you, Dad?" Outside, laughter still faintly drifted from the west wing, where Elias entertained his guests, his mistress's voice a shrill echo in the night. Ariel closed the study door behind her, leaving only the faint light from the window on the briefcase. As she turned away, the camera lingered on the label stamped across the folder inside. 62% equity transfer, Rhodes Enterprises to Grant Tech Holdings, pending activation by beneficiary Ariel Rhodes. The inheritance she never knew existed was already hers. She just didn't know yet how completely it would ruin him. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, please take a second to do it now. Every click, every share, every comment helps us keep telling stories that give strength to women and children who've been broken, forgotten, or silenced. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel. You're standing beside survivors, saying their stories matter. Turn on your notification bell so you never miss a story that could change a life. And in the comments, tell us, where are you watching from? And what part of this story spoke to your heart? The next evening, the mansion blazed with laughter again. The servants moved quickly, adjusting table linens under Elias Grant's orders as guests arrived. Investors, family, and neighbors, including Karen Lewis, the ever-curious neighbor with a camera-ready smile. Selena Cross stood near the grand piano, dripping in red silk and diamonds that sparkled under chandelier light. She laughed too loudly at every comment, every compliment. Her hand never left Elias's arm. Ariel entered quietly through the side hallway. Her bruised cheek was concealed with light makeup. Her presence drew a wave of whispers, then silence. "Oh, she came," Selena murmured, just loud enough for others to hear. "How brave." Elias's voice cut through the low hum of conversation. You're late. Ariel's tone remained calm. You didn't invite me. Laughter rippled again, though quieter now, nervous, curious. Elias smirked, swirling his drink. Everyone's invited when I'm celebrating success. Grant Tech will merge with Titan Ventures next month. We'll be unstoppable. His father, Marshall Grant, raised a toast. To my son, the genius who built an empire from nothing. Cameras flashed. The crowd clapped. Only Karen Lewis hesitated, her gaze drifting toward Ariel, noting the faint mark beneath her makeup. Elias caught the look. His pride bristled. Ariel, why don't you tell them what you do now that you've retired from being useful? The room went still. Selena laughed softly, hand over mouth. Elias, don't be cruel. It's just a joke, he replied, smirking. But Ariel didn't flinch. Her expression didn't change. She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in months. Funny, she said softly. I was thinking the same thing about you. The guests exchanged glances, unsure whether to laugh. Elias's smile faltered, just for a second. He raised his glass to regain control. Always dramatic, he said. That's what makes her unforgettable. Selena leaned forward, whispering something in his ear. He nodded, lips curling in amusement. You know, Ariel, he said, Selena's joining me at the new headquarters. She understands how business works. Ariel's voice was steady. Then I hope she also understands how consequences work. Selena blinked, the faintest crack in her poise. Karen Lewis leaned toward her husband, whispering, Something's off. Look at her eyes. That's not a woman breaking. It's a woman planning. Elias caught the movement, his ego flickering with irritation. What's that supposed to mean? Karen smiled innocently. Oh, nothing. Just admiration. For your wife's composure. The tension thickened. Selena shifted uncomfortably. Elias forced a laugh that sounded hollow. The power in the room, subtle, invisible, had begun to change direction. Ariel placed her wineglass down carefully. Enjoy your merger, Elias. You might find surprises in the paperwork. Elias frowned, confused by her calm. She smiled faintly, polite, detached, and walked out before anyone could respond. Her steps echoed down the marble hall. Behind her, the laughter returned, but this time thinner, uncertain. As Ariel reached the doorway, Karen Lewis's voice drifted after her, soft and prophetic. Some storms don't make noise before they break. And somewhere deep inside the mansion, Elias laughed again, unaware that the woman he mocked had already set his empire's countdown clock in motion. The mansion was silent after midnight. The laughter, the gossip, the champagne, all gone, leaving only echoes. The red dress Selena had worn still hung over a chair in the dining room like a trophy. In the east wing, Ariel Grant stood in her father's old study, the brass key trembling in her fingers. Her reflection glowed faintly in the glass cabinet doors. Her makeup was gone now, the faint bruise beneath her eye visible again. A bruise that no longer looked like shame, but proof of survival. She whispered, You left me something, didn't you, Dad? The key fit perfectly into the drawer lock she'd found the night before. Click. The mechanism released with a sigh. Inside lay a weathered briefcase stamped with Rhodes Legacy Holdings. Her heartbeat quickened. She placed it on the desk, unbuckled the worn straps, and opened it slowly. The scent of aged paper and cedar filled the room. Files, contracts, seals. The top document caught her breath. Trust Agreement, Rhodes Enterprises Holdings, Beneficiary, Ariel Rhodes Grant. Her eyes darted across the page, tracing each word. Then the line that changed everything. 62% controlling interest in Grant Tech Holdings, transferred under silent clause, effective upon the passing of Dr. Samuel Rhodes. Her trembling stopped. Her father hadn't just left her memories. He had left her ownership. Flashback. She saw him in his workshop years ago, covered in sawdust and warmth. Ari, he'd said, smiling, never let anyone tell you value comes from noise. Real power hides in silence. Her throat tightened. Tears welled, but not from pain this time, from recognition. Elias had built his empire using her father's legacy, her trust, her inheritance. Every brick, every car, every diamond Selena wore was funded by her name. The one she had buried out of love. Her hands clenched. The paper crinkled. She whispered to herself, "He thought I was nothing. He built his empire with me." Ariel's eyes flicked to the window, the same window through which the guests had laughed at her humiliation. Outside, the garden lights flickered in the breeze. Her voice steadied. "If silence was his weapon, truth will be mine." She gathered the documents neatly, her every motion deliberate. A folder marked financial transfers contained Elias's forged signatures, his greed laid bare. Each piece of evidence was a blade, not to wound, but to cut lies clean. She pressed the files flat, then closed the briefcase. Her expression softened as she whispered, "You were always protecting me, weren't you, Dad?" The faint hum of air conditioning sounded like approval. Quiet, continuous, sure. She turned off the light, leaving a single desk lamp glowing on the briefcase. Its reflection shimmered across her face, half shadow, half fire. As she stepped into the hallway, her phone buzzed. A message flashed across the screen. Audit request, Grant Tech Holdings. Suspicious asset activity detected. Ariel stared at it, calm spreading through her chest like dawn. The storm had just received its first wind, and this time, she was the one controlling where it would strike. The following morning, Ariel Grant stood in her father's study, sunlight spilling through the tall arch windows. The briefcase lay open beside her, papers neatly stacked, their edges sharp like silent weapons. Last night had changed everything. For the first time in years, the silence in the mansion didn't suffocate her. It belonged to her. She picked up her phone, scrolling through old contacts she hadn't dialed since her father's funeral. The names felt like ghosts. Her thumb stopped on one, James Porter, her father's lawyer, the only man who ever looked Elias in the eye without fear. She pressed call. The phone rang twice. "James Porter speaking." "It's me," she said softly. "Ariel." A pause, then a voice she hadn't heard in years. Steady, respectful. "I was wondering when you'd be ready, Mr. Rhodes." That single word, Rhodes, sent a shiver through her. Within hours, James arrived. Gray suit, calm eyes, the scent of paper in order. He studied her father's documents, flipping through the seals and notarized clauses with surgical focus. When he looked up, there was quiet awe in his tone. "He left you everything, not just equity, control. You own Grant Tech, Ariel." She exhaled slowly, almost disbelieving. "He said I wasn't built for business." James's eyes softened. "Then let's teach him what he built." He wasn't alone. By evening, he brought others. Harper Lynn, forensic accountant, Ethan Shaw, cybersecurity analyst, Dahlia Cho, corporate strategist, Miles Reese, ex-corporate investigator. They entered the mansion one by one, their briefcases clicking open on the dining table. The same table where Elias had humiliated her nights before. Each face carried quiet respect. Each voice spoke precision, not pity. Harper adjusted her glasses. "He forged multiple transfer papers, all traceable. Every cent he moved leaves a fingerprint." Ethan typed swiftly. "I can access his offshore servers. Discreetly." Dahlia unrolled a blueprint of corporate structure. "If we move before the merger, we freeze everything he's stolen." Ariel listened in silence, her eyes flicking from one ally to another. Her pulse was calm, her voice low. "No chaos, no shouting. This isn't revenge. It's correction." The room fell quiet. Even the hum of their laptops seemed reverent. Miles broke the silence. "What about him? When do you tell him?" Ariel turned toward the window, where sunlight painted her reflection in gold. "When the cameras are rolling, when his arrogance is at its loudest." James smiled faintly. "Just like your father." Her lips curved. "No," she said. "Stronger." They nodded, united in silent agreement. The woman once silenced had become a commander of order and calm precision. As the team packed their materials, the briefcase sat closed on the table, not as a relic, but as a throne. As James left, he handed her a sealed envelope from her father's archive. "He wanted you to open this when you were ready to lead." Ariel looked down at the envelope marked "The Day of Truth." She traced her fingers across the seal, her reflection glinting in the gold foil. Her whisper was barely audible. That day is coming, and somewhere across town, unaware of the storm gathering in his own house, Elias Grant toasted his upcoming merger, laughing, blind, and already standing on the edge of his fall. Morning sunlight poured through the glass walls of Grant Tech headquarters, glinting off steel and glass like a fortress built from pride. In the center of it all, Elias Grant stood before a crowd of investors, his smile wide, his voice steady, the picture of untouchable success. When Titan Ventures signs the merger next week, he said, we'll be worth over $1 billion. Efficiency, innovation, dominance, that's what we stand for. Applause filled the room. Cameras clicked. He straightened his cufflinks, basking in the sound. Behind him, a massive screen projected his image 10 feet tall. His own reflection multiplied. But in the corner, a junior analyst whispered to another, "Did you see the audit notice?" "Yeah. Something about asset inconsistencies. Weird timing." Elias caught fragments of their words and frowned. "Everything all right?" he asked sharply. The analyst froze. "Yes, sir. All under control." He dismissed it with a smirk. "Good. Keep it that way." Across town in her father's study, Ariel Grant was a mirror opposite of him. Calm, centered, methodical. Her team sat around the table, laptops open, papers spread like battle plans. "The audit triggered faster than expected," Harper Lynn said. "Good," Ariel replied softly. "Let the truth crawl before it runs." James Porter added, "He's going to notice. The more he tries to fix it, the deeper he'll dig himself in." Ariel closed a folder and leaned back, her tone measured. "Then let him dig." At Grant Tech, the cracks deepened. The press release about the merger had barely gone live when Karen Lewis, the neighbor-turned-freelance blogger, posted an article. "Is Grant Tech's golden CEO too polished to be real?" Within hours, whispers turned to noise. Phones rang. Investors asked questions. Elias' assistant, pale and nervous, entered his office. "Sir, the audit team wants to review old transfer files. They say some documents look unusual." His hand froze midair. "Who authorized that?" "It came from the federal division, sir. They already started." His jaw clenched. He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Handle it. Quietly." He turned toward the window, his reflection distorted by the sunlight. For the first time, the glass didn't show power. It showed doubt. That night, the mansion was quieter than usual. Selena lounged on the sofa, scrolling through social media. "People online are asking if the audit is true," she said. Elias snapped, "Ignore it." "I can't," she muttered. "It's trending." He turned sharply, eyes blazing. "Nothing's wrong." But outside, Ariel's car glided past the gate, headlights cutting through the dark. From her driver's seat, she watched the mansion she once called home glow under the night sky. The same glow that used to blind her now looked fragile. She whispered to herself, "When pride begins to crack, it never stops at the surface." Inside Grant Tech, a system alert pinged on Elias's computer. "Unauthorized access detected. Source, Rhodes Legacy Holdings." He frowned, confused. "What the hell is that?" Cut to Ariel closing her laptop. Calm, collected, the faintest smile tracing her lips. The first domino had fallen. The empire had begun to crumble from the inside. The city was still half asleep when Ariel Grant unlocked the doors to her late father's abandoned office building. The sign above the doorway, Rhodes Enterprises, was faded, its letters weathered by neglect and time. Dust floated in golden streaks of morning light. Every creak of the floor sounded like her father's voice returning from the walls. She stood in the center of the empty lobby, her heels echoing softly, the briefcase still in hand. "We're reopening," she said quietly. Her words felt like a command to the ghosts of the past, and they obeyed. Moments later, her team began arriving. James Porter, Harper Lynn, Ethan Shaw, Dahlia Cho, and Miles Reese, each carrying laptops, files, and quiet determination. The old building transformed before their eyes. Laptops hummed, papers spread across long wooden tables, cables snaked through the dust like veins of rebirth. Harper scanned through the financial records. "The audit is widening. Once they connect the accounts to Grant Tech, he's finished." Ethan nodded, fingers flying over his keyboard. "His offshore funds are unraveling. All we need is one more confirmation, and the regulators will lock him out. Ariel said nothing. She moved toward her father's old desk. Solid oak, deeply scarred but still beautiful. She placed a photograph of him beside her computer, the same photo from her mirror that night. For a long moment she simply looked at it, her voice barely a whisper. You told me to rebuild with integrity. I'm ready now. Flashback, a memory from her childhood, her father guiding her hands as she soldered wires for a small project. Power isn't loud. Ari, it's focus. Stay steady. The scent of solder and coffee filled the memory before fading back into the present. Back in the room, Dahlia spread blueprints across the table. If we rebrand under the Rhodes Foundation, every asset tied to the stolen equity will fall under your ownership automatically. Miles adjusted his watch. We'll need protection once it goes public. The backlash will be loud. Ariel's gaze lifted to him. Let them be loud. I'll stay calm. The contrast between her serenity and their urgency commanded the space. Everyone paused, watching her. She wasn't just planning anymore. She was leading. James Porter broke the silence. Your father would be proud. She smiled faintly. No, he'd say, about time. The team laughed softly, the tension thinning just enough for breath. Outside, the sky shifted from pale gold to full daylight. The city stirred awake, unaware that in this forgotten office, a storm was silently being built. Ariel typed her final instruction into the system. Freeze Grant Tech accounts. Authorization. Beneficiary owner, A. Rhodes. A beep confirmed the command. The briefcase light reflected off her face. Calm, radiant, unstoppable. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number appeared on screen. Elias Grant. What did you just do? Ariel read it once, set the phone down, and whispered, You'll find out in daylight. Outside, the old Rhodes Enterprises sign flickered. Dead for years, now glowing faintly again. The rebuilding had begun, and with it, the quiet birth of vengeance in the name of integrity. Golden laughter poured from the rooftop terrace of Selena Cross's penthouse that evening. A jazz band played softly under string lights. Reporters, influencers, and business associates mingled, toasting the power couple of the moment. Selena stood at the center in a red silk gown that shimmered under city lights, the same shade she'd worn the night Elias locked Ariel outside. Every camera adored her. Every guest envied her. At her side, Elias Grant clinked glasses, wearing his signature smirk. To new beginnings, he declared, to power, wealth, and women who understand ambition. Laughter followed. Even Karen Lewis, the neighbor who once pitied Ariel, was there, recording with discreet fascination. She whispered to another guest, He's celebrating too early. I can feel it. Selena leaned against Elias, voice dripping with triumph. You really don't regret letting her go. He laughed, arrogance in full bloom. Ariel was furniture, quiet, dull, and replaceable. The crowd chuckled. Cameras flashed. Every frame captured cruelty disguised as charm. But the night wasn't finished teaching him irony. Minutes later, a waiter approached Elias with a message on a silver tray, sealed in white, embossed with gold letters. From the office of the Rhodes Foundation. He frowned. Who sent this? The waiter shrugged. A courier. Said it was urgent. He opened it lazily, smirking at Selena. Probably another partnership request. Inside, a single page. Notification of asset suspension. Effective immediately, all Grant Tech accounts are under investigation for financial discrepancies linked to Rhodes Enterprises holdings. His smile froze. The laughter around him faded into a dull hum. Selena frowned. What's that? He stared at the document, color draining from his face. It's impossible. He reached for his phone, opening his finance app. Error. Bank accounts. Frozen. Corporate dashboard. Restricted access. Investors chat group. Left by everyone. A trickle of sweat ran down his temple. The air around him thickened. Elias, Selena whispered, her tone shifting. He looked at her, realization dawning like a curse. Someone did this deliberately. Downstairs, Karen Lewis refreshed her phone, her eyes widening as the trending headline appeared. Breaking, federal audit confirms Grant Tech assets linked to hidden beneficiary, Rhodes Enterprises. She turned her camera toward the terrace, whispering into it. History has a strange sense of timing. Upstairs, Selena tried to laugh it off. It's just a mistake, right? Elias's hands shook as he read the fine print again. Beneficiary, Ariel Rhodes Grant. The name hit like thunder. The woman he'd beaten, mocked, erased, had just claimed everything. The crowd began murmuring, whispers spreading like wildfire. Reporters refreshed their phones. Some lifted their cameras again, recording not glory this time, but downfall. Selena stepped back, her smile fading. Elias, what did you do? He didn't answer. He couldn't. As sirens wailed faintly in the distance and flashbulbs flared around him, a text popped up on his screen. From Ariel Rhodes. Every empire built on lies eventually remembers who funded it. He looked up, trembling. The rooftop lights flickered, gold turning to white, and for the first time Elias Grant felt the world tilt beneath his feet. The mansion that once buzzed with laughter now echoed with silence. Elias Grant paced across the marble floor, his phone pressed to his ear. No, listen, there's been a mistake, he snapped. I own those accounts. Hello? The call cut off. Every number he dialed sent him to voicemail. He turned toward Selena, who sat on the couch scrolling through her phone, her face pale. Elias, she murmured, the news is everywhere. They're saying the Rhodes Foundation froze Grant Tech's assets. They're calling you. Don't say it, he barked, but his voice cracked halfway through. His reflection in the glass window showed a man unraveling. His tie hung loose, his eyes wild. He slammed his fist on the counter. This is sabotage. I built everything. From behind him, Selena's voice was soft, almost trembling. Maybe she's the one behind it. He turned sharply. Ariel, don't be ridiculous. She doesn't have the brains or the... He stopped mid-sentence. The word brains died on his tongue, because suddenly he remembered. The Rhodes name, her father, the documents he'd ignored years ago. He whispered almost to himself, Rhodes Enterprises. Selena's eyes widened. What did you say? But before he could answer, the sound of tires rolled up the driveway. Headlights flashed through the front windows. A car door shut. Selena rushed to the window. Oh my God, it's her! The front door opened slowly. Ariel Grant stepped in, calm, immaculate, radiant in silver gray. No bodyguards, no anger, only presence. Elias froze where he stood. For a moment, he couldn't speak. The woman he once dismissed as fragile now filled the entire room with quiet command. You shouldn't be here, he managed. This is my house. She tilted her head slightly, eyes serene. Is it? She handed him a thin folder. He opened it, his hands shaking. The deed to the mansion. The ownership transfer. Signed years ago, by him. Her name printed in bold across the top. Ariel Rhodes Grant. He looked up, disbelief splintering across his face. This is impossible. Her tone was gentle, almost kind. You told me once I was nothing, but everything you called yours was built from my inheritance. Selena stepped backward, clutching her purse like a shield. Elias, what is she talking about? He ignored her. His voice dropped to a whisper. You planned this. Ariel's eyes glistened, not with revenge, but truth. No, you did. Every lie you told just signed another paper I already owned. The weight of her calm crushed him more than rage ever could. She turned toward the door. You have until tomorrow morning to leave my property. As she stepped outside, her phone vibrated. A text from James Porter. Everything's ready for the gala reveal. Cameras confirmed. Ariel looked up at the night sky, the mansion glowing behind her like a fading crown. Her whisper was steady, final. Tomorrow the world learns who built his throne. And as she drove away, the faint sound of glass shattering echoed from the house, Elias's empire, breaking one frame at a time. The ballroom of the Titan Grand Hotel blazed with light, chandeliers reflecting gold across a sea of guests. Cameramen, investors, and press anchors lined the edges, waiting for one moment, the grand merger signing of Grant Tech with Titan Ventures. At the center of the stage stood Elias Grant, confident once again, suit tailored to perfection, ego stitched back together overnight. Beside him, Selena Cross, smiling for cameras in another crimson dress, the color of pride and denial. Tonight, Elias began, his voice booming through the mic, we make history. Grant Tech is no longer a dream. It's the future. Applause erupted. Every flashbulb turned him into the shining icon he believed himself to be. He leaned forward to sign the document, his hand poised dramatically over the golden pen. But before the nib touched the paper, click. The ballroom doors opened, heads turned, the crowd hushed. Ariel Grant walked in, poised, silent, luminous in a pearl-white suit that seemed to glow beneath the chandeliers. Every step echoed like a verdict. The security hesitated, uncertain whether to stop her. But her composure was so absolute that even they stepped aside. She walked straight to the front, her calm gaze locking on Elias. Before you sign that, she said softly, there's something you should see. Her voice was low, but it carried like thunder. The crowd parted. Whispers rippled through the air. She placed a sleek silver folder on the signing table. It's a list of every company asset, she continued, and who they legally belong to. Elias frowned, forced a laugh. Ariel, this is neither the time nor the place. Her expression didn't waver. It's exactly the time. And this, she opened the folder, is exactly the place. Screens around the ballroom flickered to life. Documents appeared in sequence. Company registrations, bank transfers, ownership papers. Each line bore a name that silenced the crowd. Beneficiary, Ariel Rhodes Grant. Elias froze. His signature hovered uselessly above the page. Selena stepped back, whispering, Elias, what is this? He stammered. These are forged. A voice from the audience, James Porter stepping forward. Authenticated by Federal Registry this morning. Reporters gasped. Cameras zoomed in. The investors' faces turned pale. Elias' chest rose and fell rapidly. His once-controlled voice cracked. You planned this. Ariel met his gaze, calm as glass. No, Elias, you did. The moment you used my father's name to build your empire. The room held its breath. She closed the folder, lifted her chin. You wanted the world to see your power. Now they will, as it leaves you. Security began ushering him off stage as reporters shouted questions. Selena stumbled backward, her clutch falling, eyes wide with disbelief. Ariel didn't move. She simply stood there, unshaken, as the crowd erupted. Flashes, murmurs, chaos. As Elias was escorted away, he turned one last time, voice breaking. You'll regret this. Ariel's reply was calm, final, absolute. I stopped regretting you the moment you hit me. She turned toward the cameras, serene under the lights, her voice steady for the world to hear. Integrity isn't revenge, it's correction. The applause that followed wasn't loud, it was reverent. The following morning, the world had already chosen its side. News vans crowded the front of the Grant Mansion. Reporters shouted questions into microphones as headlines flashed across every screen. Grantech CEO exposed, wife revealed as true owner. Ariel Rhodes Grant, the billionaire he tried to erase. Inside, Elias Grant sat motionless on the marble stairs, surrounded by unopened letters, half-packed boxes, and silence. The house that once symbolized his pride now felt like an echo chamber of his downfall. His phone vibrated endlessly. Missed calls, terminated contracts, board resignations. His empire had turned its back on him in less than 24 hours. Mr. Grant, his butler said quietly, avoiding eye contact, the staff are leaving. There are no more funds to cover payroll. Elias didn't answer. He simply stared at the TV screen showing footage from the gala. Ariel, calm and radiant, while he was escorted out. The camera zoomed in on her face as she said, Integrity isn't revenge, it's correction. That single line played on repeat like a curse. Selena Cross stormed in, eyes red from crying, clutching her phone. You lied to me, Elias. You said everything was under control. He looked at her, his voice brittle. You don't understand. I built this company. You built it on her, she spat, and now it's gone. Do you realize my name's trending under fraud accomplice? She threw her phone at his feet and grabbed her purse. I can't go down with you. He reached for her wrist, desperate. Selena, please. She pulled free. You're finished. The door slammed behind her. He stood there, the echo of the door slam vibrating through the empty mansion. The same door he once locked to throw Ariel outside. Now it locked him in. Hours passed. Evening light dimmed the gold tones of the mansion into gray. Elias wandered through the rooms. The dining hall where he'd humiliated her. The mirror hallway where he used to check his perfect reflection. Each place now whispered what he'd done. He picked up a framed photo from the shelf. Their wedding day. Ariel smiling softly, eyes full of trust. His thumb brushed the glass, tracing the edges of a love he had crushed. She was never weak, he murmured. I just never saw her. A sound broke the silence, the front door opening. He turned, startled, but it was just Marshall Grant, his father. Dad, you came. Marshall's face was cold. I came to collect my things. The investors already withdrew. We're bankrupt. Elias stepped forward, pleading. You believed in me once. I believed in the mask, his father interrupted. Now everyone sees the man beneath it. He walked out without another word. Elias stood alone as the lights flickered. Unpaid bills cutting power mid-room. The mansion darkened until only moonlight remained. He sank to his knees, whispering through trembling lips. Ariel, how did I ever think you were nothing? A notification blinked on his phone one last time. Property ownership transferred. Vacate premises within 48 hours. The same house he used to imprison her would now cast him out. Karma had turned the key. A week later, the city skyline gleamed under a clear blue morning. The same media outlets that once mocked Ariel Grant now filled their headlines with awe. From beaten wife to billionaire CEO, Ariel Rhodes Grant redefines power. The woman who owned his empire. Inside the newly restored Rhodes Foundation headquarters, sunlight flooded the boardroom. The room felt different, not like a battlefield of greed, but a sanctuary of calm authority. Ariel stood at the head of the table, dressed in a soft ivory suit, her hair pulled back, her demeanor serene. No arrogance, no vengeance, just balance. Around her sat her allies, James Porter, Harper Lynn, Ethan Shaw, Dahlia Cho, and Miles Reese. Each of them now department heads in the Foundation's new structure. James read the final report aloud. All assets legally transferred, merger voided, and the Foundation fully recognized under your father's name. Congratulations, Ms. Rhodes. She smiled faintly. It's not about congratulations. It's about correction. They nodded in silent respect. The tension of weeks past was gone, replaced by quiet pride. Ariel looked out the window at the city her father once dreamed of rebuilding. My father believed in progress with conscience, she said. We're not here to mirror corruption. We're here to reverse it. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the room with the gravity of command. In another flash of contrast, the boardroom's glass reflected the headline on a nearby TV screen. Elias Grant under investigation for fraud, tax evasion, and corporate misconduct. He was now a cautionary tale, while she stood as the embodiment of restraint and justice. But Ariel didn't gloat. She didn't even smile. Instead, she closed her notebook and turned to her team. We'll reopen the scholarship fund my father designed, she said. Name it the Rhodes Renewal Program. Give opportunities to those who lost everything to greed. Just like I did. Harper Lynn's voice wavered slightly. You're incredible, Ariel. Ariel looked at her, eyes calm but glistening. Pain teaches clarity. Once you stop fighting to be heard, you start learning how to be remembered. The room fell into thoughtful silence. The power of her words wasn't loud. It was sacred. Moments later, Lydia Moore, her former assistant, entered with a smile. The press is waiting outside for a statement. Ariel nodded. Tell them I'll be brief. When she stepped onto the steps outside the building, the flashbulbs erupted. But this time, they didn't blind her. They illuminated her. Power without integrity collapses, she told them. What happened wasn't revenge. It was restoration. And I hope every woman watching this remembers. Silence isn't weakness, it's preparation. The crowd fell quiet. Cameras froze. For once the world listened not to scandal, but to grace. As Ariel turned to re-enter the building, she paused at the door, whispering under her breath. Half prayer, half promise. Dad, the legacy is safe now. Then she placed her palm on the engraved glass panel, the Rhodes Foundation, built on integrity. The sunlight caught the letters, turning them gold. Her era had begun. The evening sky burned with the soft orange of sunset over Rhodes Foundation headquarters. The city outside glowed with quiet motion. Taxis, laughter, lights, all moving to a rhythm that finally felt free of her pain. In her office, Ariel Grant stood by the tall window, her reflection layered over the skyline. She was calm, her features softened, no longer shadowed by sorrow or revenge. The documents on her desk were signed, the legacy secured. Everything her father built was whole again. A gentle knock at the door broke the silence. Lydia Moore peeked in. There's someone here to see you. Ariel didn't turn. Who? It's him. The name didn't need to be spoken. Ariel exhaled slowly, the quiet acceptance of a storm long past. Send him in. Elias Grant entered the room hesitantly. The once impeccable man now looked ghost-like. Unshaven, his suit wrinkled, his arrogance dissolved. He stood near the doorway, unable to meet her gaze. Ariel, I didn't come to argue, he said. I came to apologize. She finally turned to face him. There was no hatred in her eyes, only clarity. You don't owe me words, she said softly. You owe yourself understanding. He stepped closer, his voice trembling. I thought control was strength. I thought love was obedience. And I thought I could own you. Ariel's gaze dropped to her father's framed photo on the desk. You never owned me. You only delayed me. He swallowed hard, tears threatening. You destroyed me, Ariel. Her tone remained calm. No, you destroyed yourself. I just stopped protecting the illusion. He dropped to his knees, unable to hold himself upright anymore. Please, I have nothing left. She stepped around the desk, standing over him, the same position where he had once towered over her. You once said I'd learn my place, she whispered. I did. It's called peace. Silence filled the room, heavy but healing. Then she took a breath and said the words that ended it all. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to carry your darkness any longer. Tears slipped down his face. She turned away. Leave, Elias. Don't look for me again. He nodded broken and walked out quietly. The door closed with the gentlest click. Not anger, but closure. Ariel walked to the window again. The city lights flickered below like stars on earth. She whispered to her father's photo. You were right. Power wasn't the lesson. Grace was. She placed the old wedding ring, melted into a small silver pendant, beside his watch on the table. The camera panned wide, her figure framed against the skyline, her hair catching the golden glow of the setting sun. Even broken wings, she murmured, can still fly. The wind from the open window lifted the curtains. White, light, and free. The screen faded slowly to light, not darkness. Her vengeance became restoration, her silence became strength, and her story became a legacy.